So there's our first pair. Dave Warren in the right lane. 088 to start things off. 781, 172 miles an hour. That'll make Dave Warren our number one qualifier so far. So Associated Tire bringing us this weekend's Canada West Doorslammers event. Right now we got Paul DeBree Jr. and Mark Thompson out there. 031 and 032 on the tree. Both guys paying attention at the finish line. We have a new number one qualifier. Mark Thompson goes 7:45 and 183 miles an hour. Paul DeBree Jr. is in the show with an 8:47 at 156. Next pair, Steve Wilson and James Kennedy. James Kennedy, that very pretty Pontiac over there in the right lane, an 04 Grand Am. Big Barry wants to thank Ken's Specialty Auto. Should definitely be a contender for that number one qualifying position. Steve Wilson, Tower Side, 68 Camaro, 615 cubic inch big block Chevrolet. Wants to thank Western Gas Company, Lordco, Ritchie Racing Engines, ISM Steel Manufacturing, and Clockwork Safety Training. So again, that's Steve Wilson, Tower Side, TCS Lane. Kennedy looking good. Nice clean pass. Reader board says 682, 200 miles per hour. How about that? Nice looking pass. Congratulations, James Kennedy. Whole lot of work took place in the offseason to get that car ready to do what it just did. Steve Wilson is in the show. You got to run at least 870 in order to be eligible for round one. Hey, let's give Junior Dragsters and Junior Street a standby call. Cash Sandu. Wow, haven't seen that guy in a while. He didn't look up at the tower, so apparently his hearing's not doing that well. So again, junior classes, this is your standby call. Please be ready to go. Junior classes, you are on standby. Mike Kenworthy now. Going to take on Terry Shaflita. Couple of Firebirds. Shaflita, 709, 195 miles an hour, and that 97 Firebird. Nice looking run for Terry. It was 022 up front. It's going to put him in the number 2 spot for now. Mike Kenworthy, nice A to B pass, 817, 165 miles an hour. That'll bring up Chad Edwin and Mike Bedsworth. Bedsworth in the right-hand lane, the Lord Coast side of the racetrack. Multi-time former champion in this class. That 1996 Oldsmobile. Deadly car. Edwin over here in the black S10. Bedworth starts off with a 17 light, then goes 715, 114 miles an hour. Edwin, 816, 168 miles an hour. So far, everybody that's made an attempt to go down the track has qualified to race. 2 more for you now. Another former champion in Otto Schulte. Otto would also like to thank Associated Tire. Along with Old LeBrown, Georgia Straight Collision. So Otto Schulte goes 749, 181 miles an hour. Right beside him, Terry Langdon Davies goes 812 at 162. Hey, listen up in the pits. Attention in the pits. Junior Street. Junior Street. We need you now. Junior Street, come on down to lanes 3 and 4. And Junior Thunder and Junior Lightning, we need you as well. Junior Thunder to lane number 1. Junior Lightning to lane number 2. So once again, Junior Street to 3 and 4. Junior Lightning to lane number 1. Or sorry, lane number 2, and Junior Thunder to lane number 1. Matching 66 Chevy 2s out there, Ray Rusiani and Dale Jansen. Well, Jansen's is actually a Pontiac Acadian, but that's all good. Dale Jansen, love that car. 792, 169. Right beside him, Ray Rusiani, 834, 161 miles an hour. So Ray Rusiani, a veteran racer from Ontario, raced for over 40 years back east, then decided to retire in Kelowna. Mission Raceway is his new home. In the show. So Jansen gets in the show with an 8:49, 154 mile an hour pass, TCS side of the racetrack. Steve Lowe, Lordco lane, goes 8:16 at a $1.73. That's going to bring up Grant Howell and Howie Winklehorst. Winklehorst in the right lane. Obviously, Howell in the left. Look at Grant Howell, 008. And 768 at 176 miles an hour. Winklehorst, meanwhile, in the right lane, 8:42 at a $1.60. You know, it almost looks like these two guys went in for a 2-for-1 deal on paint jobs. Poe Freeborn, Tower side of the racetrack. Comox Valley Bobcat and Excavating. Absolutely gorgeous 1967 Shelby. And over in the right lane, Jason Field in his 71 Chevelle. Poe Freeborn pre-staged, waiting patiently on Jason Field. So Jason Field was leading the way off the gas well before the finish line. Still goes 781 at a $1.32. Poe Freeborn on the sheet with a 766 at 155 miles an hour. Stretch, Scott Robinson. Stretch turns it red by just 1/1000th of a second. At the finish line, 774 at just 179. Scott Robinson in the right lane goes 884 at 113 miles an hour off the gas and coasting. So does not make the show. Got to run 870 or quicker. Jan Christensen in El Gringo goes 849, 158 miles an hour down the TCS side of the racetrack. Darren Buick behind the wheel of his Nova in the right lane goes 855, 154 miles an hour. That's going to bring up Rod LeClaire and Brad Powell. Rod LeClaire, Tower side. 67 Mustang. Nice long burnout. Did I say 67 Mustang? Nice long burnout in the Camaro. So Brad Powell in the right lane out of Linden, Washington. That silver 67 Chevelle. Rod Leclerc, 101 of the 60-foot. He is trucking down the TCS lane. How about 669, 204 miles an hour to grab that number one spot. Nice looking pass. Rod Leclerc, our new number one qualifier. Brad Powell, meanwhile, makes the show 8:33, 160 miles an hour.
John, thank you. You're a lifesaver. Now I can go grab something to eat. Awesome. Thank you.
No worries, Wally. Go get yourself something to eat. I'll be calling you back up here when I call juniors. So, 2 rounds of qualifying for the Canada West Doorslammers this morning. Typically, on a Sunday only, they would only get one. However, this is their first race weekend of the season. So the decision was made to give them a second round of qualifying, and that's where we are right now. Terry Langdon Davies, look at that. 003, baby. Then 815, 162 miles an hour. Top end of the TCS lane. Chad Edwin in the black S10. I'm a big fan of that car. Was a little snoozy on the starting line, but that's all right. Want to get those kind of lights out of the way. Run did not go all that well either by the looks of it. Just 940 at 160 miles an hour. Not sure if he spun the tires or what. 164 60 foot certainly does not make much sense. Attention in the pits, Yvette Jacobson. If you're anywhere near the tower, if popping up here, or you can just you can give me a call. I'm not sure if you have my number, but if you do, fire away. Now Mike Bedsworth and Steve Wilson. Steve Wilson in the right lane. 615 cubic inches. Pretty sure I saw a little bit of a nitrous purge. Bedsworth in that super clean Oldsmobile tower side. So kind of a throwaway run for both cars. Not sure what happened to Bedsworth on the starting line, but the 5:26 reaction time is not the norm for that guy. Wilson was 0:34, so quite a bit better, but off the gas shortly after he left. Bedsworth made it, well, out past the 8th mile, I think. No, not really. Was doing a $1:24, so I'm going to say he was off already. Or no, 1:31, sorry. I was reading that 1,000-foot mile per hour. Still not used to that screen with 1,000-foot mile per hour on it. So now it's going to be Dave Warren and Dale Grasdale. Grasdale in the right lane. If I remember correctly, he did not get down the track in Q1. So a couple of green lights. Pretty sure I heard somebody pedal. 784 for Dave Warren, 175 miles an hour. Dale Grasdale goes 808 at 163. That'll bring up Scott Robinson and Paul Stretch. Paul Stretch, the champ. Paul Stretch out of Duncan, BC. Chevrolet Cavalier wants to thank Mid-Island Engines. Scott Robinson, former champ. Behind the wheel of his 94 Beretta. Left side of the racetrack, TCS lane. Robinson 025 up front. Robinson first to the finish line, 7:56, 179 miles an hour. Paul Stretch goes 7:74 at 178. Darren Buick and Paul DeBree Jr. getting themselves staged up. Attention to the pit, super shifters. Super shifters, we need super shifters to lanes 1 and 2. Super shifters, this is your call to 1 and 2. One more time, super shifters, come on down to lanes 1 and 2. Super combo, this is your standby call. Jason Field and Rod Leclerc. Jason Field, left side of the racetrack, TCS lane. Rod Leclerc, 102 to the 60 foot. Looked like he was driving through some tire shake there. How about 670, 203 miles an hour for Rod Leclerc. Looking good. Jason Field, meanwhile, goes 735 in the left lane. Next up, Steve Lowe and Grant Howell. Grant Howell in the right lane. The very, very orange 37 Chevrolet Coupe. Steve Lowe and his 92 Firebird. Trick Racing. Pre-stage bulbs lit, both sides of the track. Steve Lowe goes in, now Howell. Steve Lowe red by 19 thousandths of a second. Grant Howell 13 thou. Good. Top end, Grant Howell 771, 176 miles an hour, 820 at 173. The numbers for Steve Lowe in the left lane. Howie Winklehorst. Tower side. Dale Jansen. Beautiful. 1966 Kanza. Jansen with a 19 lane. Howie was strong with a 23. Jansen with the top end first. 802, 168 miles an hour for the blown Kanzo. Howie Winklehorst goes 844 at a $1.59. Terry Shaflita and Mike Kentworthy now. Kentworthy in the right lane. Terry Shaflita. Left lane, couple of Firebirds. Shaflita in his 97. Basically, a little bit of an old school pro stock setup. 500 cubic inches, 5 gears, and a clutch pedal. Listen to this thing sing as he goes down the track. Kenworthy, his 92 Firebird. Shaflita, 703, 195 miles an hour. Nice clean looking A to B pass. Kenworthy. Also with a clean pass, 815 and a $1.66. Greg Field coming up right hand lane. This 69 Opel GT is fast. 572 cubic inches of twin turbo assisted big block Chevy. So So Greg Field really seemed to struggle with this car towards the end of last year. As soon as they'd get one problem sorted out, another one would arise. And a great effort was made through the offseason to get this thing completely sorted out. Had a little bit of a hiccup on the burnout in Q1, but back up here for Q2. Rod Leclerc's #1 spot is in jeopardy. Brad Powell in the left lane out of Linden, Washington. Field leaves a little bit early, but at the top end, how about 729, 203 miles an hour. So obviously left kind of soft with a 158 60-foot. That would explain the ET at the finish line. Typically speaking, on a good pass, this car is in the 6-second zone. That certainly gets him inside the show, which is where he needed to be. Brad Powell goes 834 at 160 miles an hour. And that's going to bring up Devin Jansen and Poe Freeborn. Poe Freeborn, right-hand lane. Stretched out 67 Mustang. Shelby, to be more precise. Get away clean. Poe Freeborn leading the way, puts a 728 up there on the Lordco side reader board, 190 miles an hour. Devin Jansen, 854, 153 miles per hour. So a little change up to the Doorslammers program for 2025. Historically, Canada West Doorslammers always qualified by ET, i.e. the fastest or quickest car would be your #1 qualifier, and so on and so forth down the line. Well, now qualifying still takes place, however. It's a whole lot simpler because all it really accounts for is who would get the potential buy, and that's not decided by ET anymore. That is decided by reaction time. And then, first round, there is no ladder. It's now random pairing. Here is our first pair, Chad Edwin and Terry Shaflita. Shaflita in that 1997 Firebird, dialed in at 703. He's going to hang back for a little over a second as Chad Edwin has the black S10 dialed in at 816. Shaflita in the right lane. 500 cubic inch big block Chevy and a clutch pedal with a gear shift, 5 gears. Shaflita goes red by 22 thousandths of a second. Chad Edwin racing towards his own win light. Winds up 824 on the 816 prediction. Was, well, less than stellar on the starting line with a 110 reaction time. But what really matters is whether or not he got the win light, and he did indeed get that at the top end. So Chad Edwin will be coming back for round number 2. Shaflita winds up going 705, 195 miles an hour on the 703 dial. So made a nice lap. Two more for you. Devin Jansen, right-hand lane, the Black Nova. Out of Armstrong, BC, Devin Jansen dialed in at 855. And yes, that is a Studebaker in the left lane. Mark Thompson dialed in at 745. So just 8,000 separate them on the starting line. At the finish line, it is Mark Thompson with the win light on. 7:56 on the 7:45, good enough to get the job done. Jansen unable to produce the 8:55 that he dialed as he winds up only 8:80. Mark Thompson advancing to round number 2. Dave Warren in the Blue Max. Well, if you're going to nickname your car the Blue Max, you should probably be doing funny car style burnouts, and that's exactly what we just saw out of Dave Warren. So he's got himself backed up behind the starting line now. Dave Warren in the Blue Max, his 1962 Bel Air, dialed in at 784. In the right lane, El Gringo. Jan Christensen's super cool 67 Nova. He's dialed in at 850. So the green Nova will leave first. The black Bel Air will do the chasing. $16,000 advantage for Dave Warren. Does in fact turn the win light on. So 8:55 on the 850 is what Jan Christensen comes up with. Dave Warren to the stripe first by 34 thousandths of a second. He's 3 above at 787 on the 784. Now Steve Wilson and Ray Rusiani. Couple of Chevrolets. Rusiani in the right lane. Gorgeous 66 Chevy too. Steve Wilson in the orange Camaro 68. Tower side. Dialed in at 808. He's going to do the chasing. As Rusiani's dialed in at 825. Hey, listen up out there in the pit. Super Shifters. Super Shifters, come on down. Super Shifters to lanes 1 and 2. Super Shifters, this is your call to the staging lanes. Super Shifters to lanes 1 and 2. Super Combo, please be ready to go. Super Combo, this is your standby call. One more time, Super Shifters to 1 and 2. So it's Steve Wilson with the win light, 812 on the 808. Good enough to get the job done. Wilson to the stripe first by 33 thousandths. Had a sizable advantage via reaction times on the starting line. TLD, Terry Langdon Davies. This young man's been racing since 1969. Bedsworth in the right lane. He's fighting for his life right now, does not get it done. It is Terry Langdon Davies going dead on with an 8 to get the win. Terry to the stripe first by 48 thousandths. He was 16 up front. Bedsworth was 029. And at the finish line, Bedsworth manages 721 on the 717 dial. But again, TLD goes dead on with an 8 to turn on that win light. Coming back for round 2. Now Jason Field and James Kennedy. James Kennedy behind the wheel of Big Barry. Pontiac Grand Am. Right-hand lane. Ken Sahota power. So Field rolls in, lights both bulbs. Not allowed to do that. Gets backed out. We'll try this once again. 3-stage bulbs lit, both sides. Kennedy's in. Now Field. Here we go. two green lights. One of them much better than the other. Kennedy, 684 and the 683 to call it good. He's got the win light. He was 20 up front. Field missed the tree with a 159. Then comes up a little shy on the top end, 749 on the 735. So Kennedy advances to round number 2. Now Steve Lowe and Poe Freeborn. Poe Freeborn in a 1967 Shelby, sporting 648 cubic inches. Dialed in at 714. He's going to give over a full second handicap to Steve Lowe on the starting line. Lowe and the Firebird dialed in at 822. Waiting for the fourth bulb. We're running out of time. Oh, Poe used just about all the time he had. Finish line says it is Steve Lowe moving on. 830 on the 822. Going to get the job done. Poe Freeborn off the gas at the finish line, doing just a $1.50. Comes up 751. So Lowe coming back. Next pair got the burnouts done. Now Greg Field. Do believe he ran like a 720 something with a very soft 60 foot in qualifying. He's dialed 681. So they are somewhat chucking a dart and hoping they get a bullseye. Mike Kenworthy dialed in at 815. Kenworthy in the left lane. He'll be leaving well ahead. That didn't sound right. Kenworthy turns it red by 1/1000th of a second. Greg Field was there for the taking. So started, I don't know, he had all the boost built before he was actually in the beam. Then left on virtually no boost. So Greg Field's going to get another shot at it. How about that? Mike Kenworthy's going to be kicking himself. 0.001 red light. I know the feeling. Been there, done that. About a half hour ago. Now Scott Robinson and Howie Winklehorst. Howie behind the wheel of the red and white 55 Bel Air. Scott behind the wheel of the red and black 94 Beretta. Howie Winklehorst probably celebrating as he sees his win light on. Scott Robinson, red by 0.007 of a second. So Winklehorst will be back for round number 2. That's going to set up Grant Howell and Dale Grasdale. Dale in the left lane. Well, apparently I've been saying Dale's name wrong for years. Grasdale. I will do my best to remember that. So Dale, left side. Very pretty blue Chevelle, 1968. Big block. Nitrous inspired. He's dialed 7 seconds exactly. Grant Howell, former champion. Dialed 771 in the gorgeous 37 Chevrolet. Right-hand side of the racetrack. Grant Howell's moving on. Grant Howell is moving on. With that, I need your attention in the pits. Super Combo. Super Combo. This is your call to lanes 3 and 4. Super Combo to lanes 3 and 4. Lordco Super Combo Association. This is your call to lanes 3 and 4. With that, we're going to give Super Pro a standby call. Super Pro. This is your standby call. And with that, I'm going to put Kevin Ness back on the microphone. Spectacular on the starting line, and he turns the win light on. 837 on the 834, taking 18 foul at the stripe. He was 001. Paul DeVries Jr. was very solid with an 028 light. Then comes up 2 above, 851 on the 849. But it's going to be Brad Powell coming back for round number 2. Now Paul Stretch and Dale Jansen. Paul Stretch, the champ. 02 Cavalier, 638 cubic inch big block Chevy. This thing makes some smoke. Dale Jansen with some trouble in the right lane. Paul Stretch gets a freebie here in round 1. Basically another time trial. How close does he come to the 722? 723 with a 2, not bad. A tough break for Dale. So now, I'm going to hand the mic over to Kevin Ness. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, hello, and thank you, John. Now you got to listen to me again. With that, we got our second last pair of door slammers going down the track for this round here. We got Darren Buick in the left lane. I mean, it would be cool if he was driving a Buick, but close enough. He's got that 67 Nova, taking on Otto Schulte in the 2005 Cavalier over there. Otto dialed in with a 765, Darren with an 862. And Darren Buick leaving before the tree activated, handing the win over to Otto Schulte. Otto going to 752 on the 65, but it did not matter because Mr. Darren Buick leaving before the tree coming down. So Otto Schulte moving on to the next round in Canada West Door Slammer, which will bring up our final Canada West Door Slammer competitor, Mr. Rod Leclerc, with the bye, our #1 qualifier. Rod going to make a single pass here. As I said, #1 qualifier in Canada West Door Slammer, so getting the bye here in the first round. Dialing in with a 671.
So here we go. It's not all that uncommon that I need to correct myself, and I'm going to do that just as soon as Rod Leclerc gets to the end of the track. How about that dead 9 on the 671 dial? Here we go. Round number 2 for the Associated Tire Canada West Doorslammers coming at you. So it was random pairing for round number 1, but they're on a ladder for round number 2. Dave Warren gets a competition single. Just to be clear, this is not a buy run. Greg Feel should be over in the right-hand lane. However, he did a little bit of damage to the little oval, so he's not able to make the call in round 2. The result, Dave Warren gets a freebie. 786, and at the finish line goes 787. Brad Powell and Mark Thompson. Couple of silver cars. Mark Thompson in the right-hand lane dialed 745. It's 1954 Studebaker. Brad Powell, tower side, dialed 835. Chasing. He was considerably better on the starting line, and he gets the job done at the finish line. Gets right first by 31 thousandths. Come up 749 on the 745 dial. Thompson with double 09 reaction time. Powell was a little on the late side, 073. Then goes one above the 835 dial, but to no avail. Now Paul Stretch and Chad Edwin. Chad Edwin, 824. The dial for the black S10. Paul Stretch out 722. Stretch with the win line. It was actually Edwin to the finish line first, but in doing so, breaks out, goes 819 on the 824. Paul Stretch will advance. Now Steve Lowe is going to take on former champ Otto Schulte. So a couple of green lights. Who's going to get it? Looks like Otto. No, it is Steve Lowe. Gets to the stripe first by 9 thou. Looked to me like Otto was going to drive around him, but could not get it done. Wins a double break. He was under by 25 thou. Otto under by 28 thou. And now Steve Wilson taking on our number one qualifier, Rod Leclerc. Leclerc dialed in with a 671 in the left lane. Leclerc for Paradise Homes. Shout out to Ken Specialty Automotive for the horsepowers. Steve Wilson in the right lane. Racing for Western Gas Company, Lordco, Ritchie Racing Engines, ISM Steel Manufacturing, and Clockwork Safety Training. Wilson dialed in at 811. Attention the pits, super shifters, we need super shifters. Super shifters, this is your call to lanes 5 and 6. Once again, super shifters to lanes 5 and 6, please. With that, we're going to give Super Combo a standby call. Super Combo, please be ready to go. TLD and James Kennedy. TLD is going rounds. Kennedy turns it red by a scant 0.02 of a second. Then runs under the dial by 1/1000th. Terry Langdon Davies was 0.32 up front, then goes 8.16 with an 8 on the 8.17. So TLD coming back for more. Now Howie Winklehorst is going to take on Grant Howell. Howie, left side of the racetrack, the 1955 Bel Air. Dialed in at 8:38. Grant Howell. His gorgeous 37 Chevrolet Coupe. Dialed in 774. So just 14 thousandths head start for one of these guys. It was your winner. Grant Howell, 778 on the 774. Getting to the finish line first by 28 thousandths of a second. Looks like that's going to do it for round 2 of Associated Tire Canada West Doorslammers. TLD. Terry Langdon Davies coming up, left side of the racetrack. The black and purple 1941 Willys. Terry racing in his 56th year. And Terry is going around number next. Mark Thompson in that beautiful Studebaker right lane turns it red by 23 thousandths. Terry Langdon Davies racing towards his own win light. Just for good measure goes dead to 816 with a 2 on the 816 dial. Hey, listen up out there, everybody. Super shifters and super combo, we need you now. Super shifters to lanes 5 and 6. 5 and 6 for super shifters. And super combo will take you in lane number 1, or lanes 1 and 2. Lanes 1 and 2. So one more time, super combo to lanes 1 and 2, super shifters to lanes 5 and 6, super pro, you be ready to go. Standby call going out to super pro. So Dave Warren and Steve Lowe getting themselves staged up. Steve Lowe 820, Dave Warren 787. One of these guys with a 36 thousandths advantage, and that was Steve Lowe. He's 013 up front and 823 on the 820. Good enough to get the job done, taking 38 thou at the stripe. Paul Stretch and Grant Howell now. Paul Stretch, your reigning champ. Grant Howell, former champ. Paul Stretch dialed in at 722. Grant Howell dialed in at 772, exactly 1/2 second. Both cars pre-staged. Stretch goes in. Now Howell. Grant Howell turns it red by 4/1000ths of a second. Paul Stretch will be going to what I believe will be the semi-final round. Paul Stretch 721 with a 6 on the 722 dial, under by just 3 thou. Grant Howell, just for good measure, goes dead on the 772 dial. Steve Wilson with the bye. Gets another time trial. Right in the middle of eliminations. Little nitrous purge. The prediction, 8.1 seconds. Well, he was on a bye. Well, here we go. Looks like the semi-final round for the Associated Tire Canada West Doorslammers. Got a pair at the starting line, Paul Stretch and Steve Wilson. Steve Wilson. Fresh off his bye round in the quarterfinals. Dials the orange Camaro at 8:11 in Lord Co Lane. Paul Stretch dialed in at 7:21. Stretch turns it red by 26 thou. Steve Wilson is going to the final round. Well, I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess Steve saw his win light, decided to save the equipment. No point in running it all the way out. That's going to bring up Steve Lowe and Terry Langdon Davies. Terry, left side in the 41 Willies. Steve Lowe in the right lane is 92 Firebird. Steve Lowe dialed 8:21. Terry Langdon Davies dialed 8:16. Just 5/100ths of a second will separate them at the tree by the dial. So we're almost heads up here. Two green lights, one a little better than the other at the finish line. It is Steve Lowe getting it done. 8:23 on the 8:24. Langdon Davies, not sure what happened to him. Wound up 8:24 on the 8:16. Steve Wilson and Steve Lowe. I'll lay some serious money down that Steve's going to win this race. Oh, I think I have missed my calling as a comedian. Steve Lowe, tower side. Steve Wilson, spectator side. Wilson, the 68 Camaro. Steve Lowe, the 92 Firebird. They're dialed 11/100ths of a second apart. Steve Wilson will be leaving second. He's dialed at 8:11. Steve Lowe will be leaving first, dialed at 8:22. Final round action. So we're going to have a first-time winner here, folks. Steve Lowe gets it done. How about 8:27 on the 8:22? On and off the gas up there a little bit. Nice job, Steve Lowe. Had the starting line advantage, 0:12 to 0:44. Did his job at the finish line. So Steve Lowe winning his first ever Doorslammers race. Big shout out.